Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake meeting of council held November 21st, 2017. Before we start our meeting, I just have a few notices to read. At its meeting of December 5th, 2017, council will hold a special meeting to consider the rezoning of property at 74 2nd Street. And number 2, consider a bylaw to sell land at the southwest corner of George and Queen Streets. So to start our meeting, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We have the approval of the agenda.
I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of November 21st, 2017 as presented.
All in favor? It's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Petitions and delegations. We have 3 tonight. The first delegation is the KL Gold Miners Junior A Hockey Club. Colin Hudson and Jim Taylor, are you guys coming up? And Rob, are you coming up as well? Just Jim, please. Yeah.
I'd rather be called.
Jimmy,
Stuck on my own.
maybe on that one right there, but.
Okay.
And just make sure the green light's on. And thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. So I guess at one of the recent council meetings, there was a request for some additional information about the Gold Miners Hockey Club. So we've put together a little presentation which will hopefully enlighten council a little bit, sort of where we've been, where we see ourselves going. A little bit of history. As most of us know, Kirkland Lake's been affectionately known as the little town that built the NHL, and that's part of our history. You walk around the arena, look at the murals that proudly depict the history and generations that have passed through Kirkland Lake. Certainly creates a very strong hockey heritage and really establishes that our community roots are in hockey. Basically, who are the gold miners? We're the current and possibly last link to our strong hockey heritage and our pride in being known as a hockey town. The Kirkland Lake Gold Miners Junior A Hockey Club was formed in January 2012 by a local group of volunteers to replace an existing and struggling NOJHL franchise that was started in 2011 by a local entrepreneur. The previous team was facing bankruptcy, and this group of concerned citizens did not want to see competitive hockey leave Kirkland Lake. As such, a management team consisting of a president, a secretary-treasurer, a director of hockey operations, and business manager were elected to run the day-to-day operations, and several other volunteers were appointed directors to perform other functions within the organization. The Kirkland Lake Gold Miners Junior Hockey Club, and again, this is something that's many people don't know. We are a registered not-for-profit corporation. We're not owned or operated by a group of individuals or any one individual, as many have speculated. The organization's operated by an elected executive and an appointed board of directors who are volunteers and have no financial interest or potential gain from the operations of the team. The annual operating budget of the team is approximately $350,000. The money used to finance the team comes in the form of sponsorships, gate receipts, advertising sales, and player fees. One of the other things that seems to be misconstrued in the community, of our total operating budget, approximately $180,000, or roughly half of the budget, is collected from the players. So if you put that into perspective, players are paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $8,000 a piece in order to play hockey on our team. The economic impact The Kirkland Lake Gold Miners, in addition to its $350,000 operating budget, generates further economic benefits for the town of Kirkland Lake and local business community. A further $90,000 is spent directly in the community by the players, who are, as we've indicated, mostly out of town. The players' parents contribute a further $30,000 to the community while visiting to see their sons play hockey. Visiting teams contribute another $30,000 in hotel rentals and restaurant expenditures. Fan support at 27 home games generates a further $40,000 in local spending, including concessions, restaurants, gas stations, hotels, etc. Visiting referees and officials generate another $10,000 in local spending. Pretty much all of our officials are brought in from out of town, and many of them end up spending the night here, just out of necessity. As such, a conservative estimate indicates the Kirkland Lake Gold Miners Junior Hockey Club creates a positive impact on the area of approximately $1,375,000 annually, assuming an economic impact factor of 2.5, which I think is reasonable. The Dudley Hewitt Cup, or the Central Canada Junior A Championships, were held in Kirkland Lake in 2016 and hosted by the Kirkland Lake Gold Miners Hockey Club. It is estimated that the visiting teams and fans of this event spent approximately $500,000 in Kirkland Lake over a 5-day period and created an economic impact of about $1,250,000. The town supported the event, but the gold miners assumed all of the financial risk. With the hard work of over 100+ volunteers, the team, community, and town hosted a successful event. This event also provided increased exposure for our community through new visitors to our town and substantial media exposure. In addition, during the 2013-14 season, the Gold Miners team invested $30,000 and hundreds of hours of volunteer labor to upgrade some of the dressing room facilities at the Joe Mavernack complex. In the summer of 2017, the Gold Miners team invested another $10,000 to upgrade the previous Legion 87's midget hockey team dressing room facilities. We believe the Gold Miners have added considerable value to our town and our community, and to the extent that both the town and our team should be proud. Financial history and status. In the initial 2012-13 season, the team suffered a loss of $54,000, most of which was attributed to the original purchase of the franchise for $45,000 and the initial costs for uniform equipment, etc. 2013-14, the team suffered a loss of $22,000. 2014-15, the team suffered a loss of $20,000. In 2015-16, the year we hosted the Dudley Cup, the team suffered a loss of $59,000, which fortunately was partially offset by profits from the championship event. In 2016-17, the season just passed, the team suffered a further loss of $20,000. Fortunately, these losses have been covered through the generosity of local businesses, individual supporters, and local quote-unquote angel supporters who believe the gold miners are important to the community and our town's hockey heritage. I will tell you that the team does not owe anybody any money. We're not in arrears, so we're always current. The town of Kirkland Lake ice rental fees are now in line with what other NOJHL teams pay in similar sized communities. We are appreciative of the fact the town has recognized we cannot operate or survive if our facility rental costs are prohibitive or higher than other teams with which we compete. To be clear, in our opinion, the Kirkland Lake gold miners are not specifically subsidized by the town, as previously reported, but rather pay rates that are fair and comparable to other small communities. The gold miners in the town of Kirkland Lake currently have a financial relationship with the town that is fair and allows a team to operate. Gold miners' request to council. The gold miners are requesting a long-term agreement with the town of Kirkland Lake that covers the following: maintains the existing fee and facility rental charges, maintains the current advertising rights awarded to the team, awards all other existing advertising rights currently in the lobby and arena portion of the complex to the gold miners. We currently estimate there's about $40,000 of revenue coming from local businesses that's actually leaving our community. The formation of a proper recreation committee with user group representation, recognition of lost gate revenue for the gold miner team as a result of current construction, protection from the environment for our fans during the current construction, and an informed and supportive council and town staff interested in preserving our hockey heritage. Our conclusion: we need a sports tourism strategy that is good for the town, but also good for the user groups. The Kirkland Lake Gold Miners and many other volunteer organizations in our community are key components in the economic future and revitalization of our town. We need to work collectively with the town to achieve our common goals and objectives so we create and enjoy a quality of life that not only supports our current population, but attracts new residents and businesses to the town that built the NHL. We the gold miners are proud of our past hockey heritage and proud of our current high-level winning hockey teams. Together, we can provide a bright future for the next generation of Kirkland Lake hockey enthusiasts. Thank you. Question?
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for the update and the giving us all that information. Council comments, questions? Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jim. You rattled off quite a few numbers there that would be very helpful for me in making any kind of a decision. I'm just wondering, I'm not much of a visual learner or an auditory learner, but I'm a visual guy, so
Yep.
can we see those numbers at some point?
We have no problem sharing our financial statements, which are reviewed by Ross Pope and Company annually.
Well, that would be good too, but I'm
In-
talking
in
just about,
camera.
I'm just talking about the numbers you just rattled off there,
Yeah,
if you could share those as well. Like, because those are sort of the high-level numbers,
yeah,
but if you could share the other stuff in camera with our staff, that'd be wonderful too.
100%.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Shamian.
Can we get a copy of this, Jim?
I have copies for
Okay,
everybody.
perfect. That's-
Good.
I forgot what
Thank
Bob
you.
needs.
Oh, sorry, Todd.
Yeah, that's
I
what he wants.
misunderstood.
That's what I wanted to.
Yeah.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for updating us on KL Gold Miners. One of the subjects came up a while back, and I think it was Rob that told me this, but just to clarify, if the team, this is a not-for-profit organization, so if the team was ever sold, if there was a profit, where does that go?
I believe our constitution states it goes to minor hockey.
Okay, I think that's important to note.
Yeah.
So
There is a
obviously,
provision in our constitution that the money in it, as Rob's confirmed, it is in our constitution, it goes to minor hockey.
so obviously the investors' investment is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
No, it's a keep us out of debt scheme.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, there's not a lot of money in the NOHA.
Anybody that gets involved
Yeah.
in junior or A hockey to make money is getting involved in the wrong thing.
Yeah, certainly, we enjoy having you here every year, of course. And we certainly gives us an opportunity to thank you and your organization for what you do, preserving and bringing some good caliber hockey to our community. I guess one of the main things is, and no doubt working on it diligently, is trying to get the attendance up a little bit. Of course, that's the key, isn't it, you know?
Always.
Yeah, but you're maintaining a pretty good
Yeah, and
attendance.
The
but-
attendance of our community is pretty comparable to other communities of relative size.
Yeah, I think there's one in the league that's really, Smooth Rock, is it Smooth Rock or Iroquois Falls?
No, Iroquois Falls is gone now, but,
One gets,
Sioux
yeah,
Michigan and Hearst are probably.
yeah, Hearst, I guess, say they're getting about 700 or 800 there at a game.
And,
It's,
and part of that, in due respect to Hearst, is it's their first year in the league,
Yeah.
and there's still some of the newness.
yeah, sure. Well, it's been here a while, and we still have the excitement. It's just to
Yeah.
get that. Councillor Morgan, or Councillor Mino.
Jim, that was a good presentation, because the finances were never clear to me, and the nonprofit situation was, it's clarified now, so I stand on different ground. In your letter to council, you said that you're looking at presentation and request an extension of the free room rental.
We would like to enter into a long-term agreement
Yeah.
that recognizes the existing agreement.
Okay, because that seems to be a one item only, but in
Yeah.
your presentation, if my memory serves me right, because I had short-term memory, so I
Yeah.
read, you talk about fees, ad rights, a rec committee, the construction, and obviously heritage of hockey. Like,
Yeah.
the fees you're talking about are,
The fees for ice rental and the fees around the dressing room and those things, which we have current arrangement with the town
yeah,
on those. That's-
and those were
that's what we're-
satisfactory, I believe what you said, right?
Exactly. What we're trying to do is just maintain status quo over a long period of time.
Oh, I see.
Because it allows us to, quite frankly, budget properly.
And the ads right, you already have that, I believe,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So that's like,
The
when you're talking status
the
quo,
only
that's-
one we're adding to that, Norm, is there are some ads that are in the lobby of the
Yeah.
complex right now. We believe to be true that the majority of that ad money is leaving the community and not staying here. And I think that collectively, we should do what we can to make sure that that money's staying in the community and not going to a firm that's outside of our community.
And you also mentioned the construction issue. That was a hindrance to your fan base? Is that the,
Well, there's lots of hindrances for everybody
Yeah.
using the complex right now. It's not just us, and we understand it, but, based on feedback from people that normally go to the arena, there's concerns about parking.
the entrance?
The entrance, the most recent one, quite frankly, that's come up is with the cold weather here now, there's no shelter, so every time that door opens, anybody that's sitting at that end of the rink ends up with a blast of cold air, and a lot of our fans are seniors, and quite
It's
frankly,
an
it's a
inconvenience.
concern.
Yeah. And the last thing you said, the rec committee, can you elaborate on that? How you want that relationship to be?
Well, our view is that, when the tourism strategy was formed, there was minimal, input from the user groups, because we were one of the user groups at the time that were trying to find ways to work with the town. And I think what we're looking for is a more open, relationship, not just with ourselves, but all of the user groups with the recreation committee, so that we can talk about these issues on an ongoing basis, as opposed to all of a sudden it's a problem for somebody, whether it's the town or ourselves or somebody else.
So you would, and then, because you said also representation, so,
Well,
like,
I'd like to see representation of
miners' body.
of the gold miners, but I would also like to see representation of the other user
Yeah.
groups.
yeah, okay, that's what I thought I understood. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Just before, yeah, certainly, I certainly want to apologize for the inconvenience of the construction, but as you said,
It is what it
there-
is.
there's a big light at the end of that tunnel, and
Yeah.
in another month or so, it'll all be behind us. So, but I do have a resolution. Is there no other questions or comments?
No.
Jim, we just have a resolution, and then we'll...
A resolution that's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council directs staff to work with the Kirk Lake gold miners and report back during the 2018 budget deliberations.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Robin and Julie from the Kirk Lake Festivals Committee. Welcome. Welcome. Julie, it might be better if you sat in that one, and just make sure the green lights are on, please.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, and
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to consider our proposal. As you know, I'm here as chair of the Kirkland Lake Festivals Committee, and we're here on behalf of all the directors. Robin is here because he's, you know, the grandfather of the Festivals Committee, as he's much, much, much older than me. I just wanted that on the record. So, I mean, the proposal that we put forward was circulated. It's posted to the agenda. It's pretty straightforward. Just maybe what we can do tonight is provide a bit of context to where that came from, where it's coming from, and kind of why we approached you guys tonight. So we met with the CAO and the mayor a few weeks back. Actually, I think it was October 23rd. And we had a really fruitful discussion that lasted over an hour. I think it was almost 2 hours, about what we can do about the committee, the future of the organization, and what we can do about the events, and looking at our relationship with the town. And so it basically came down to two options. And the options were that either the town council, well, the town would form a new subcommittee, kind of like they have in Timmins or in North Bay, where the town would take over and run the events. Or the other option was that we would form a not-for-profit corporation and be a standalone committee where we would have our own insurance and really disassociate from the liability of the town. And so that's kind of what came about. And so the proposal, as you probably already know, is the latter. It's where we are proposing that we become a standalone committee and that we form a partnership with the town in order to move forward. Of course, we want you all to know that we support whatever that you decide. Of course, you're the elected officials, and whatever you decide to do, we will fully support, and we will ensure that there's a smooth transition. So we want to make sure that that's clear, and we will do what we can to hand over the playbook and whatever is needed if it's decided that a new subcommittee should be formed. So I'll just let you continue.
And I'll add to I'll add to what Julie said. From our end, the main thing with the Festivals Committee is that the majority of the community is involved in some capacity in these events. There are dozens of other organizations running events during Winter Carnival and Homecoming, or they're co-sponsoring them. So if you take all those people and you take all of our volunteers working our events, and you take all the businesses involved and all the people and families attending events, it's the majority of the community that's involved. And these are Homecoming and Winter Carnival are huge undertakings. The people who serve as directors on the Festivals Committee literally volunteer hundreds of hours of their time a year. They're like family. They spend so much time together. It's a tremendous amount of work, but there's an economic impact in the community that was laid out in there. Those are those are government-generated numbers on the spin-off of Homecoming alone, estimated at $3 million for that week. This is not a money-making venture. Festivals Committee does not make money at anything it does. It's either free or they lose money. Events that they charge admission at, they lose money on because they keep ticket prices down. They offset it through their sponsorships. They have over 80 sponsors, over $100,000 a year in sponsorships and through government grants. And that's how they keep their ticket prices down. And it's very important that that this committee would not be here, would it not be for the support of all the sponsors and the people who volunteer. And we've had a very unique partnership with the town of Kirkland Lake pretty much since the puck dropped. There was a couple of years in before we actually became sort of a subcommittee at arm's length of the time. But this is a pivotal moment now because the Festivals Committee is not going forward until we know where we're headed with this. Normally by now we would have Winter Carnival schedule done, everything booked. We would be probably making deposits on entertainers for Homecoming, and we've put all that on hold because we really need to know, what we're doing. And as Julie said, our entire committee is going to support council's decision because you're going to do what you believe is best. And if it is that we start a new subcommittee under the town of Kirkland Lake, we will support that in any way that we can and fully support it. Our group is very committed, and they are ready to go, but for them to go as a nonprofit, they are going to need your support, be it through getting the Festivals Committee off of the town's liability. We're estimating that's gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 a year. And as it stands now, you folks we've had an agreement with the town. You've been providing us with a loan of $100,000 a year to pay our deposits, and we paid that back every year. After our ticket sales, our government money came in, so that's the only way we're gonna be able to push forward with this as the Festivals Committee, as a standalone committee on the side. But, you know, time is, we would normally be putting tickets on sale next Friday, and we have nothing confirmed. And so we're waiting for council to make a decision on this going forward. And as I said, we've had a wonderful partnership over the years, and we're hoping to continue that, and we'll continue it in whatever way you folks would like us to, so.
So we're open to questions if you would like to, if you have any.
Councillor Kylie.
Yeah, Julie, just to elaborate a little bit, if you were going to register as a non-for-profit, we wouldn't be a legal partner of the non-for-profit. That's not what you're saying.
Absolutely not.
No.
We would be completely standalone. We would be our own legal entity.
It's just the support you're looking for, as you
Right,
mentioned. yeah.
that's right. So I wasn't part of the town, the committee at the time, but when we became as part of the under the town's insurance, we were approached and it was proposed as a solution because it was to no cost to the town to add us. And so that's kind of how that got started, but it used to be a standalone committee, but at this point, we would be a completely separate corporation. And so that's the proposal that we're making, yeah.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thanks very much for this. Now, I'm taking, because your signatures are on this, that this is your preferred option, is the not-for-profit model, is that, as opposed to the committee, right? Also, I just want to clarify something. Robin, you said it, and it's written in here too. You guys don't actually lose like that money. It's offset by your corporate donations, right? So
Yes,
just so the
yes.
public doesn't think that you guys are losing $100,000 a year.
No,
Okay.
that's right, that's right.
No.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify a couple things just for council's some background. One of the drivers of why this proposal is in front of you is I guess the current subcommittee of the festival is a subcommittee under council, which means it's subject to all of council and the Municipal Act legislation. So every time they need to buy something, it needs to go through our procurement process. It needs to go through, it's basically a department. We need to budget for it, right? Having said all that, I don't think that over the last number of years, the festival committee, the subcommittee under council, followed the proper procedures as required. So, you know, having gotten wind of that, we're trying to correct that process. One of the ways of doing it is we can form another subcommittee with councilors on it that, again, reports to council. So every time they want to pick the beer they want to sell, goes to these committees, and then council ratifies it. Or they become a separate entity, and we enter into a separate agreement, just like previous conversation was with the gold miners, right? A separate contract. Their request is, because currently we supply their, we are their, I guess their bank to help bankroll their talent, right? To pay for the bands and stuff.
For the deposit,
With the
yes.
deposits, and then we get reimbursed. And we also do their purchases, and, you know, there's a lot of accounting and practices that aren't necessarily following what they're supposed to be following. Hence why we're here today. One of the proposals was either to create another subcommittee, as Julie said, or let them become a non-profit agency and then enter into just basically a partnership agreement. And I think that's what's the preferred solution. It is the preferred solution from the administration perspective because it's clean. The issue would be, it all comes down to the liability. And if they're not under the control of the organization, so council and or the CAO, they will have to get separate insurance. So it becomes a bit of a budgeting exercise, which is about, I think, $10,000 is the
That's
quote.
what we estimate.
Yeah, so that is a hard cost, that wasn't there previously. So that's where we're at today, and I think there is a motion, that they have, right? So if you just wanna, run and read it, cause I wanna.
Yeah, Joanne, we're not reading it,
Okay.
you just wanna know what's on the motion. on the
No,
resolution.
what I wanted to mention was, how it was, because I don't wanna stop the work.
No,
And
exactly.
I think and that's why I was trying to, if we wanna, just basically what we're trying to do is, in lieu of that subcommittee being disbanded, because they still need to work for the festival, which for the homecoming and for the winter carnival, which is a couple months away. So in lieu of having that subcommittee get disbanded today, what I would suggest is, until a new agreement can get in place and get ratified, that council becomes their de facto committee, to allow us to continue the work, to be their deposit, to allow us to do all this stuff. And anything that needs to come would come to council, because the subcommittee technically isn't in compliance with what it's supposed to do. So,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just add to, I know you already understand that, Peter, and I think most of the councilors are already aware, but just maybe for the record, because I know this is a public meeting, because you were talking about procurement procedure and all that stuff, and that you said that we haven't followed procurement standards. I just want to make it clear on the record that we have never, we have our own purse, basically. And that I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. So we've raised our own money and we've spent that money, put it back in the committee. And so we've really operated in a way, on a practical level. I know that because of the structural issues that you've raised, it may not be as simple as me saying, well, we have our own purse, but I just wanted to make sure that on the public record that it's out there that, it's unlike, again, not to pick on Timmins, but unlike the city of Timmins where they use public money and it's really a committee, a subcommittee of the town where everything is debated and everything is, that's public money being spent. We don't do that.
No,
So I just want to make sure.
we're actually paying user fees.
Yes.
Our bill, I think, for homecoming was $8,000 maybe for rental of the complex. And I can tell you that we cannot go one step further we will not go one step further. It's one or the other. There's no, if it's the council's decision to proceed with what Peter's saying, we support that. But you're going on your own. Festivals Committee is not running Winter Carnival under anything like that. That's why we are waiting, because we figure in 3 or 4 days we will be able to have our organization done and ready. So, but we have not taken that step yet, because that would be pointless if council feels that it's better to be run by a subcommittee of the corporation. So,
Tony, I have a question.
Councillor Shamier.
Robin, when do you need the answer? Or Julie, doesn't matter.
Yesterday.
Okay, so you need it
Well, yes,
immediately?
usually we have our tickets.
Because you have work to do, okay?
Yeah.
So we have to do that either today, Tony, or have a special meeting. To go nonprofit, how long does that take?
Very quick.
Okay, that's easy too.
Yeah, I'll take care, I'll be doing that.
Okay,
Taken care of.
and I promise you, Robin, I will not vote for the council taking care of this. This is ridiculous.
I don't know, Shammy, I think you'd be good on that.
There's no chance. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and just for so you know, like, everybody in town is involved in this, like Robin said. There's so many people involved in this, and it's good for the whole community, and even people around King Kirkland, Kenogami, people come in and participate, and it's just, there's always something for somebody. There's no reason. It's well run.
And no disrespect intended with Peter's idea to deal with this temporarily, but you have to understand that people sitting around the table at the Festivals Committee, they have over 75 years experience in volunteering for that committee. So to ask them to just do a 180-degree turn with the way we run our committee, run our events, organize everything, it's impossible. It's so much better if you guys do what, you know, what the other option is with the subcommittee, so.
Certainly, and I'm hearing from people talking, from some that, you know, it's really what you want. But it's a time issue, is how do we carry on as we were, which you don't really want to, but how do we not, because it's gonna take a few days to get all this legal stuff done.
I think what it is it's a logistics issue. We need to get direction to negotiate the agreements, right? What that is, and that at some point, that agreement's gotta come back to council to get ratified. You know, and there's a budget implication to that as well. So, and what the suggestion was, in the interim, that might take a month for us to do all that, right? We don't wanna stop you from doing the work that you do. And because that subcommittee, that illegitimate subcommittee, if you wanna call it that, is kind of no longer, we can't use that forum. We wanna be able to, if you need anything, this becomes that subcommittee's in that month, until this agreement gets, it's a bridge, right? Like, we don't want you to stop,
So
to
be-
wait for a month, and then a month from now to start up again, right? Because I guess it affects your.
It wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't
Right.
be able, there would be
Right.
no winter carnival if that
Right.
was left up to us and if
Right.
it was done that way. I totally understand that. On the legal side of things, we can form our corporation within days. And so basically what we need, I understand, obviously you have lots of procedures and that's time consuming. But what we need is kind of, even if it was an agreement on principle saying, yes, we are going to sign up on this, you know, in terms of, yes, go ahead, form your committee, we'll negotiate a partnership, blah, blah, blah. This is how we want to go. Oh, or no, we're going to take over and form a new subcommittee, completely fine, here's the playbook. We're going to absolutely support that. So basically, we just kind of need a commitment, if we can't get all the details, but we need to know which direction we're going. And in terms of us continuing to operate illegitimately, to quote, that will not happen because, like I said, I can form a corporation in days. So we would literally disassociate from you guys. You know, that can be done by next week. And, but it's just a matter, before we take that commitment, before we put in that expense, we want to make sure that you guys are alongside with us in terms of forming that partnership. So basically, that's where we are. We kind of just need to know, are we going that way or are you going that way, right?
And my recommendation would be that you guys become a not-for-profit
Okay.
and we enter into a partnership.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
Councillor Shemian.
I just have a question. I just make sure Peter and Julie, you guys both happy with this?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, Robin, normally we would lend the organization $100,000. I see you want a line of credit of $150,000. That $100,000 in the past, did we just write you a check and you
Yeah, exactly.
dispersed it from there?
Yeah, we would let them know when we were ready to start paying our
So-
deposits, so. What basically happens is, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of these performers are six figures. You have to give 50% of the fee up front before you do anything at time of signing. So it became a financial strain on us doing it, and it was, and that, you know, it was a tremendous assistance when council decided to help us in that manner.
Yeah, to set up a line of credit with the bank, it's not gonna happen in a couple of days either.
Well,
as we know.
this was, I think I mentioned in the proposal that we anticipated that, and that if there was time, because I mean, you may correct me, but the resolution that was passed was just, it was on an annual basis that they would give us $100,000 until further notice, until we went off the rails or whatever happened. So, like, I don't think that that's gone before council every year since the initial one did. And if that's what you folks prefer to do in the interim, then that's totally fine with us. But, you know, I think as Julie says, you know, we realize you guys are not going to, you know, you're probably not gonna make any firm decisions tonight, but we really need to know, you know, your feelings and your thoughts on where we're going. We're obviously not gonna hold you to it, but if we know that the majority of you feel that this is maybe not a great idea from the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake standpoint, then, like I said, and Julie said time and time again, we're fine with that, and we're gonna help in the transition. But, you know, we had a very productive meeting with Peter. He was excellent, and I met with him again and came back with some ideas, and I think, you know, we both walked into the meeting, you know, 180 degrees apart, and we were bending back and forth to figure out a way to make this work. And, you know, that we're of the opinion that this is probably the cleanest, easiest way, as Peter says. So,
Yeah, I guess one of the questions Rob and I had, you've been able to do it with 100, now it's 150. Is just to give you more flexibility, basically, or is there?
yeah, that, and we thought we'd shoot high and then see where you guys came back.
And I
Good
mean,
business.
and also to, perhaps to make sure that, clarify, we're not asking you guys to give us that money, we're just asking you to guarantee, to be a guarantor on the line of credit.
If you look at, you have to look at it, and I think I said this to Peter and the mayor when we met. If they look at the investment, and it's a loan, but if they look at the spin-off and what that assistance has provided to the town, if it all went kabunk, it was money well spent, if you understand what I'm saying. And we're never going to do anything, you know. You know, we're the face of this thing, so it's going to look, if it goes in the tank, it's, you know, it's us.
No, I think you guys have done a great job, Robin.
Thank you.
It's been very successful. Looking at the people that you have on the board of directors, high, first quality people. I guess the other question is, as forming a not-for-profit, do you ever end up with a surplus?
Any surplus that we could end up with, which would be fantastic, we have to put it back in the corporation. And so even if we have a surplus, what would happen is perhaps we wouldn't use as much on the line of credit the next year, or it would go back into it. So legally, we have an obligation to take any surplus that we have and put it right back in the corporation.
I guess I was kind of hoping you'd say, if you had a surplus, you'd put it towards that insurance $10,000 cost, so we wouldn't have
That
to.
could be worked out, but I'd have to look at the
It's
legal
food for
implications
thought.
on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think probably, and just thinking out loud, that could be considered an expense. And so that, maybe that's something that we could somehow work out.
Thank you.
Councillor Mino.
If I was a bank, I would give you a high credit rating. I've been along for 17 years with you guys, and I've been at this chair, and not once do we get negative feedback from the Festivals Committee, financially or otherwise. So you have my full endorsement, whichever way you choose to cooperate with Peter to get there. If I can expedite it, I will certainly vote for that in favor of the expedition of this agreement. Also, like, in terms of the dollars we're talking, Pat mentioned 150 or 100. We're actually loaning, is it 10 or 20, Will, for the 100th anniversary? We already have a loan system going for the 100th anniversary. And when you look at the returns of this compared to the 10 or 20,000 we're offering for local residents, you know, this is a no-brainer for me. So I would support this fully. I like the idea of having a council rep on there. It just keeps everybody honest and it keeps everybody informed. So great, you know, if it could happen, so be it. And it's obviously it won't come to the table that often, so therefore less headaches at the table here too. So I would be in favor of that for sure. And I can only think of the Culper Park Operating Authority. We do already have an agreement with that. That functions that way. There's a rep on there. There's an annual report. I know that Hockey Heritage used to have, I think they still have the committee for the collections and stuff. So I have no problem having a relationship with the Festivals Committee in a suitable way. The last thing I want to say is that the Festivals Committee is the concept behind the sports tourism strategy of this town. So thanks to you people and the efforts you've put into it, that was the desired effect. It was to have a ripple effect on the rest of the organizations, the hockey, whatever they are, to also host events in their own specialty fields so that we would create a diversification for this community, which we know is sort of has a certain lifespan because of the mining and the lumber. So this, to me, it's a no-brainer. We should support and endorse this 100%, whichever way is mutually satisfying to you.
Thank you.
Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to, the way the administration views this, it's a service partnership. On paper today, under the existing model, the festival committee is a department of the municipality, for all lack of, better clarifying. That there are department, they have not acted that way, but on paper legally, they're a department. So the municipality is putting on this event. And the way I view this is that we are now transitioning from a department putting on the event to a service provider partnership agreement. That's how I've kind of want to structure it. So we enter into an agreement, it's a bit cleaner. They don't have all the municipal act reporting requirements, neither do we on our end, and all that stuff. So that's why I'm putting it out there, right? So it's not, we don't anticipate interruption in the delivery of the service for the events, for homecoming and the winter carnival. This is more of a back-end administrative way of doing it, cleaning it up and making it proper, I guess.
Yeah, and certainly, going forward, that's what we want to do. We want to make it, we want to be in compliance, and we want to make it as easy for your group as we can, because as it stands now, by being a committee, it opens up your committee to, anyone could come to the public or council and say they want to put their name in to sit on the festivals committee. So we're trying to put you guys as a standalone. And, it's certainly, I think it's us that have been out of compliance, not the festivals committee, even though you're a committee of council. But I think it's probably the cleanest way to go. And I fully support the proposal that you's put forward. And I think that's what you're looking for as a direction. And, we could sit here for the next hour and thank the committee for all that you do. But I think what you want to know is which way council is leading. So would we go around the table? I mean, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, we just want to get some feedback.
Just to get some
That's what
feedback
we need
as
to
to,
know.
You might want to just put a resolution in principle, because the details would be negotiated with staff.
My question is, before you go on, so my question is, I'm not sure are there many details that are not, like we touched on, it was a line of credit or a loan, and it was the liability coverage, and then we wanted to report to council once a year and put an ex officio representative from the town of Kirkland Lake that could come to our directors' meetings. There's not a lot of directors' meetings, but that they could. And beyond that, this is what, we discussed with Peter. We were trying to figure out where potential problems would be, liability-wise, and from the town standpoint. So that's why I'm not really sure what,
I think our commitment that we were mostly looking for was a commitment to the insurance as well, so a bit of a financial commitment, since we're not looking. So, if we know that is not gonna be an issue, that helps us tremendously. And, in terms of the line of credit, if we have to negotiate in details, what's needed in that. But if we know that we're being supported on the insurance and on the line of credit in principle, and in exchange for that, that's why we suggested that there would be an ex officio member on there, because it makes sense. And we already report on the financials annually anyway. So, yeah, I think that's basically what we were looking for tonight, if possible.
Councillor Morgan and Councillor Shamiak.
Can we just, like, in the resolution, just say, look, this is the framework, and for staff to just, iron out the details? I mean, obviously, no slight to Julie, but her profession has to make a few dollars in this exercise, I'm sure, so.
Yeah, I think, Robin, it will have to come back to council, because there's two things that has budget implications, so the insurance and the 150. So we cannot decide that tonight, that's for sure. But we could say in principle, like they said, that's what we agree with, and Peter gave us our blessing on this before, so I would be ready to agree with this.
Councillor Kylie, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly what Jean-Guy said. In principle, I agree with what you want to do, so I would support it.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do, read a resolution, you could, for the direction, and
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kylie, that council disbands the Community Services Kirkland Lake Festivals Committee by repealing policy dated January 22, 2013. That an agreement in principle to negotiate a service provider partnership between the town of Kirkland Lake and the Festivals Committee in the creation of a not-for-profit community, and that council directs staff to work with the Festivals Committee as per the requests and report back to council.
That's good, thank you.
that's a direction. All in favor?
And we'll have video of this meeting.
Yep,
Should
tomorrow
this
morning.
go the other way. That's on. Okay.
Yeah, we have the Christmas card.
Well, I have to say that I was really looking forward to watching some debate at council regarding what they went through in Timmins, but this is unfortunate that we won't get to see this. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I know, we can pick up. Good texting you. Thank you.
Okay, our third delegation tonight is the Team Northern Throttle, 218 request to use the snow dump in the airport, and representing that committee is, I believe, Blair Preston and Mike Romaine. Come on up, gentlemen, and have a seat.
Good evening, people.
Good evening. Just if I could ask you as well, just to make sure the green lights are on in your,
Yeah.
thanks.
We're already nonprofit, we're already pay our own insurance, do all that stuff. We're kind of concerned about, like, we've never not paid our bill here. Kind of wondering why all of a sudden you want it paid in advance. I know I got a letter stating that it was in arrears, not paid. We never had a bill.
Okay, I guess tonight we're sort of here for the present, but that's something that I think that should
Well,
be
in your
taken
resolution
care of
online
staff.
said that you wanted these speculations before that it would,
Because there's no decision, we're just hearing the delegation, there won't be any decision tonight. But
okay.
certainly on the other issue, by all means, if you feel that there was some mistake on part of the town, please follow through, and if you don't get a satisfactory answer, you could.
Okay, so I'm
Call
kinda
Peter.
concerned on what we're doing, cause every other year that we came to do this, we had a decision at the council meeting to go forward.
Oh, Ashley, you do have a okay, well, Ashley's gonna speak as well, so it's unusual, but she's gonna speak as well, and she'll have a recommendation that we'll vote on.
Okay.
I wrote
So
up
please-
something.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
It says, we at Team Northern Throttle have asked council to use the airport and the snow dump for our drag races again in 2018. We are a self-sufficient organization that puts on 2 events per year in Kirkland Lake. We're also looking to branch out to other communities. We do receive sponsorship from businesses in the area. This is our 20th year for our racing in Kirkland Lake. Last year was the first time in 19 years that we have had any complaints or any issues in concern to our races. The issues were the way the property was left, police issues, other types of issues like that. We bring 140 to 200 racers and families to the airport, and about 1,000 to 3,000 spectators, depending on weather. We do not qualify for sports and leisure funding. We do not qualify for lottery license. We generate between 75,000 and 100,000 in spending with our organization in the immediate area. Everything we buy is in Kirkland Lake. If it's available, we buy it here. In addition to this, the racers and their families spend a lot of money in town also. On average, a racer will spend $1,000 a weekend. Some of them rent motels, some of them stay at the airport, but on average, they spend $1,000 per weekend. So if you take out 150 racers, it's $150,000. And then just the other issues on the bottom, but that's,
I
Will
think,
do.
think we were totally, it's totally
Yeah.
not what I expected that we were doing here, so. And I was going back to the, dealing with the property being left, before I leave every Monday following the races, I speak with the person at the airport, ask if it's satisfactory for us to leave, and every year it's been told yes, including this year. Then to get this letter after was a little, kind of blindsiding to us.
Ashley, are you gonna, are you gonna make a presentation as well?
Later on.
Yeah, but I think we were going to do it, are you gonna do it now?
I can,
Is that what we thought would be the, is that all fine with council as well?
Can I ask her? Or you wanna wait after
No,
Ashley?
no, please, yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm surprised too, because you guys always been good to deal with, we never had any problems. I know last year the police got involved, but I'm sure that's something you will fix this year. It's hard sometimes, but it comes back on you because it's your insurance.
Well, that's part of our concern is, it is our insurance.
Yeah.
So why should we be told how to deal with our insurance?
Yeah, and it's not
Like,
us, it's the
to-
police.
For us to pay for the police is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's their job to come and do it. If the police came out there and seen somebody drinking and driving without a helmet, why did they let them go? Why did nothing get done?
You're
If
asking-
that's a real
you're asking the-
legitimate
Yeah,
you're
statement,
asking the
it
wrong
doesn't make any
people.
sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
and maybe what you should do is have a meeting with Sergeant Rick and ask him what the problems were and how we could maybe go around it. Because it's something we don't wanna lose, it's important, and like you said, it's a big weekend, there's a lot of traffic downtown, there's a lot of cars coming in. I know the
my
restaurants are
question-
pretty
My
busy.
question to that is though, who has decided that we had to do that? Like, where did that come from? We pay rent, we pay our insurance.
Ashley will tell us that.
That's-
and the town is named on our insurance policy to protect them also.
Yeah.
To protect the town,
Yeah,
so.
and you're right, we never had problems before, and last year was the first time I was sort of sad, because it's a,
And
It's a big
I
event.
will say, we did have a car rolled over, and when the car rolled over, I was on a four-wheeler and I drove 330 feet to where the car was, and 3 cruisers that were on the property beat me there. They drove about a quarter mile behind all the spectators, kids running around, and they beat me when I went 330 feet in a straight line. Blair was across from the accident, and the cruiser was there before he was. And to have 3 police at the airport
Like
to,
I would say we had police coverage.
so
Yeah.
did you guys hire the police, or they just?
No, they were
no,
there.
they
They were
just
just
showed
there,
up.
okay.
Yeah,
yeah, I
We're
don't,
not sure why why they did what they did. They're not part of our emergency response plan, which is created by the town of Kirkland Lake.
Yeah, yeah.
We follow it.
yeah, I think like any event we have, the police can, I mean, we often see the OPP
Oh,
walking
sure.
through the
And
complex.
we welcome
We're
They're
good
not
with it. We
OPP
welcome
hired
it,
from
but
the
I'm
complex.
just
but
trying to say
they're-
that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
If
Yeah, because you guys
if there
are,
was legalities that were done, it just doesn't make sense that nothing was done.
yeah.
And then you want us to pay these people.
I don't think you should be paying the police. I mean, but perhaps, I don't know if the suggestion was just to have some of your own security,
Yeah,
you know?
do.
To let, yeah.
we do have
and
security.
that's-
We have people at the gate, and we have at
They're
night time.
volunteers,
They're
so it
volunteers.
doesn't
Yeah.
cost us money.
Yeah, I
but,
mean,
you know.
if anything's going out there, and I'm sure the police will have taken note, if anything out there is illegal, they're gonna charge your participants or whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, or if it's yourselves.
Yeah, and I
Rightfully
totally
so.
agree.
And I think what they wanted to
they're
do
breaking
maybe
the
was
law.
try to short-circuit the situation and say, hey, can you know, tell
Yeah.
people not to drive with their out their helmets, don't drive if you have any liquor. So I think they were doing it a service to you rather than, hey, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah,
because they can be a very good service to you, because you're running a family event. You know, it's not a big hootenanny out there, is it? You know, a lot of people bring their children, you have a lot of participants, I think, that are young. So
We
you want to
have
make sure
the-
it's an event that's safe.
People can race, like,
Yeah.
children can race at 6 years old. My daughter
Our
started when
kids
she was
have been
6.
since 6. The only reason we do it is for our kids. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
I don't race, Blair doesn't race. We do it for everyone else.
Yeah, and as Councillor Chamier said earlier, you know, of all the years, it's just, you know, the 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
And now you have to, you know, take steps, and
Yep.
so that'll be just, you know, in the past. And I'm certainly hearing that you're going to do that as well. Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, Mike, can appreciate all the volunteer time that you people put in to put these events on. With respect to liability insurance, yes, you may have your own, but if anything ever happened and somebody gets killed, guess what? We get sued at the same time, and there's never enough money. They're gonna go after who's got the most money, but we've got the most insurance. So we have to be responsible for the property despite the fact you do have liability insurance. If we start getting claims or lawsuits against us, it's gonna affect our insurance. So we do have an interest in making sure that everything is done in a lawful and peaceful manner. So that's, liability concern is still a concern for us, even though you do have liability insurance. As you've seen it, when the poop hits a fan, it sticks,
Spreads pretty
wherever it'll stick, that's where they're going. And it's usually the one that has the most insurance, so.
Councillor Barker.
Blair, you mentioned you haven't been successful in getting support for the sports tourism. Would it be possible to have staff further explore that? I know we have softball tournaments and that they get a discount for even having campers, like people tenting at the fields and stuff. I think that it's a valid point that you may be able to have staff look into that and see if you do qualify for the sports tourism.
Yeah, because really it's you know, it's a form, you know, so many people stayed in the hotel, and they were from so,
Yeah, but that's the
Certain-
problem, is to try and name who stayed at a motel at a drag race. I mean, you don't have,
yeah, well, I
I
guess you
know
just
people
have your,
do.
yeah, no, but you have your your registrants that come and they register for
Well,
your,
even as a
your
committee,
program.
we rent 4 rooms for the weekend for some of our staff that have to be there. And we have paid staff, that announcers and sound guys and stuff like that. So we pay for those rooms
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, Tony, the difference with those guys, that they, like, a team comes in, a team from whatever, Englehart or Earlton or Smooth Rock Falls, they come in with their whole team, so they have the campers, they have everything. So they don't use motels, most of them, they stay there, right? I think most people stay there.
A
the
lot of,
majority
but-
stay,
yeah.
but
Yeah, so,
there's a lot of guys that
the
travel back
majority
and
Okay,
of
so-
forth.
people spend a lot of money.
yeah, the thing there would be to go around and work either with Bonnie to change a bit of the rules so you could fit it, or to make sure, to check if how many people stayed in motel. So,
yeah, well, and it's really your choice, isn't it? It's your choice if
Well, we've
if
tried to
it's,
apply for it and we're denied.
oh, yeah,
Pardon?
you were, yeah.
We tried to
2 years
deny
in a
for
row.
it.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
Tony, the way
they
it's set
didn't
up,
get-
it's all about motels right
it's
now.
yeah,
not,
it is about motels,
It's not
yes.
set up in it's still a sporting event, it still provides lots to Kirkland Lake. I mean,
Certainly it does.
it's, I think your setup may be a little,
Exactly.
Well, maybe this is something that, you know, in the future, things can be looked
and
at
I
like
do
that,
believe
because,
that it's been changed for baseball.
yeah, and it's in its
Getting the
infancy,
money
isn't
and
it?
stuff, but,
You know,
oh, there's lots
Yeah.
of it.
yeah. But did you want to add anything?
Just to clarify, your request is to just use the airport and the dump, the snow dump.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're not asking for the waiving of the airport fees.
No,
no.
we never
So-
have.
Right, so going back to the sports tourism thing, it's.
I mean, it would be great,
Right?
don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, if you
Yeah,
get
and
approved for it, I mean.
I don't know off the top of my head if the current sports tourism applies to the airport facility, right? Because you seem to be the only group that rents the airport for a community event, right? You predominantly applies to parks, our recreation center, our Heritage North facilities, right? So I don't know off the top of my head, but again, worth investigating. So And I think that, just to help out here a bit, so that the request is to ask council to, permission to use the facility for your dates. And I think that, staff have, I guess, because of the history, had just put some conditions on it for this time,
Yeah,
right? So,
conditions are a concern though.
so would it be helpful to, perhaps get council's permission to, let us work with the organization and report back? With a amicable proposed solution, or do you need the date, do you guys need the vote today to book those dates on the airport?
The
Well, as soon as
sooner,
we can do that, we can start trying to get sponsorship money to pay for everything, I mean, and which, I mean, obviously, anybody that's on committee knows it's time, I mean,
But Blair, right now you're working on the snow dump for the skidoo race.
both.
we have to start our
Yeah.
trying to get money
Yeah,
for
so
the
we
drag
could
races
probably
right
pass
now.
that one right away, and then
Well,
you
we
guys could negotiate with Blair and talk to Blair with the airport.
No,
The thing is, I'm not disputing the fees at the drag race, at
No,
the
no, no,
airport.
no.
I'm disputing paying them ahead of time.
Yeah, the
And the
deposit.
$1,000 deposit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm disputing. I mean, it also says in there that the contract needs to have where if there's damage, it's paid for by us. It's in the contract. If anybody read our contract,
Yeah, it's
it's
there.
there. Also in the contract is the fees, which don't match our bill. They're two different fees. We paid more money in our billing than what we agreed to. I mean, there's, like, as much as it is, I mean, we weren't delinquent. I don't think there's a reason why we should have to pay ahead. I mean,
Councilor Barker? Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, and I think earlier we said we weren't gonna make a decision like in this realm right here now.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get Ashley up now, so then we don't have to wait till
Yep.
the further on. So if you don't wanna wait the rest of the meeting, you don't have to, or so we'll sort of give you. But Ashley, did you wanna come up and?
Can I just ask, what's the difference in the fees between the contract and what you've been billed?
our contract was for $230 a day for 5 days, and our bill was $300 for 4 days. $300 a day for 4 days,
Okay.
which still
Which-
charged
which
us $50
only-
more than what we agreed to. But, I mean,
Yeah. Okay, well, did anybody else have any questions for the committee? Please.
It's just a procedural thing. You're asking us if you use the snow dump, and you're asking us if you can use the airport.
yeah.
And I would say yes to both.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of the details, well, I can't tell you what the liquor license board is, obliging you to do. I
Yeah.
don't have that expertise. But I would certainly endorse the use of the airport and the use of the snow dump, and then take it with staff from there. And that would make things quicker
Yeah,
too.
it would.
Unless there's stuff that's illegal, or is it?
Do you want me to present maybe and then?
Well, so far as what Councilor Mino,
Because you're combining two things here.
yeah, I don't know if we want to get into all the other discussion.
We didn't do that, though.
no.
It's in your,
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff, so I mean,
yeah, but it's, are we going to support using the airport? The rest of the terms and conditions can be worked out with staff, if that's okay with you guys. Unless, Ashley, you want to,
Well, I just want to try and maybe answer some questions. In terms of recommendations that I put here, they were in response to the things that came up at the last drag race. So not necessarily things that have to be done deal in there. They're just suggestions that we could play with. So, I mean, if the contingency fund of $1,000 is not something that can work with the committee, we can have those discussions and come up with an amendable or an amicable solution. In terms of the discrepancies between the information that was provided in the letter and your response, those are things that I'd like to address with council separately in another report. There are some things that I'd like to actually sit down and figure out which each discrepancy was, and then have a response for you for that. And that will hopefully help you guys as well. in terms of an explanation of how that happened. I think that's pretty much, we're certainly not objecting to the fact that we want to host them. I think it's great. It brings a lot of people in town. It's fantastic. I just do want to make sure that we're taking the complaint received from our Mr. Whitty, Sergeant Whitty, seriously, because it did cause quite a stir last year. So as long as we're doing that, and I know that they both want to work towards that and making sure they're meeting those regulations, so I don't see there being a problem with trying to come up with something suitable.
Okay. No other comments, we'll do the resolution. Go ahead.
It's moved by Councillor Kylie, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council approves the request from Team Northern Throttle to use the snow dump for the snow drag races during the 2018 Winter Carnival, and the use of the airport runway for drag races from June 13th to 18th, 2018. And that staff work with Team Northern Throttle Committee in setting the terms and conditions of use.
All in favor? It's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 5 on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes and recommendations.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kylie, that council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The special meeting of council held November 2nd, 2017, and the regular meeting of council held November 7th, 2017.
All in favor? That's carried. Item 6, reports of municipal officers and communications. Director of Economic Development and Tourism on NOHFC funding resolution. Did you want to speak to that, or you just?
I feel funny coming up to tell you, no, I don't want to speak to it.
This is the second part of an application to extend industrial infrastructure across Archer Drive to support new companies. We did put in the first application, and it was very well received. We were encouraged to expand what we would be putting in Archer Drive, so I went back to the other government agencies and I filed this one. It's essentially the matching application.
Okay. Was there any questions on that?
Yeah, they're all on.
Moved by Councillor Kylie, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council authorizes the Director of Economic Development and Tourism to submit an application for funding to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation in support of infrastructure improvements at Archer Drive Industrial Park. Total project costs are $374,525. Funding from NOHFC totals $168,536. The municipality will contribute $37,453 towards the project and assume responsibility for any cost overruns.
All in favor? It's carried. Ashley, you're back up again. And the first request is request to waive landfill tipping fees for salvage yard at Beaver Hill.
Yes, so this request came in from Jesse Siebert, and it's actually, he came to me and mentioned that he had a previous agreement with, I guess, former staff to have the tipping fees waived at the landfill in order to clean up that Beaver Hill site, so the salvage yard that's located right as you get out of Chappie Hughes. I believe that this was actually something that was negotiated. I'm not sure if it did come to a council decision. I couldn't find anything, so what I'm asking for council to do at this point is to just legitimize that decision that was made so that he can continue to clear up that site and receive those free tipping fees.
Councillor Kylie.
This is really nice to see it's going ahead and being cleaned up, because you come over that down Beaver Hill, it was a sight for sore eyes. So I thank Mr. Siebert for going ahead with this project, and I would support his request.
Counselor Mino. Or Counselor Morgan, sorry. I know.
Ashley, obviously this has been in the works for a while. Is there a time limit on this? Like, can we,
We can certainly add one. I believe that he's got a potential purchaser, so he's looking at clearing it out so that person can take ownership of the property. So he's
Okay.
hoping to do it relatively quickly.
okay, so it's not, this is not like a 5-year plan or?
I'm hoping not. Actually, it would probably be very smart to add a time frame to the resolution.
Okay.
Counselor Shamian.
Yeah, I agree with Todd, that's, I was gonna bring this up. Should we, it shouldn't, and it should not be a year, it should be more like a couple of months, or talk to him and see what he says. If he says it can be finished by April, then put April, and after that, if he has to do some more, he has to pay after. That's how you do it.
Counselor Morgan.
Yeah, just for the record, I'm not advocating for a really tight timeline like that. I mean, even if we get it cleaned up within a year or something, I think that would satisfy me anyways, but, because, I mean, we're heading into the winter now, so there's almost 6 months of nothingness that's gonna happen, so.
I don't think, if people have been there, it's 100 times better than it was, and it's gonna be a lot better still.
Yep, it is. I'm just wondering, do we have anything, it's a junk, like a, what do you call it?
It's a salvage yard.
A salvage yard. And over the years, it did sort of become an eyesore, but it's a salvage yard, right? So that's what it looks like. It's just on the side of our highway coming into town. But I'm just wondering, once they get it cleaned up, you know, what is stopping it from becoming another eyesore? Is any designation changing or any sector? They're still,
So it's got a legal non-conforming status. It's a planning question. Nothing technically would stop it. It does have a site plan control agreement registered on title, so that's the only thing that we could come in and try and enforce. It does say that it needs to maintain, I think it's a 10 to 15 foot buffer in the front that's supposed to be vegetation. There's setbacks from the property owners on Hilltop as well. That's taken into account. So there are those measures within the site plan control that we could look at enforcing if it starts to pile up again.
yeah, and I guess a lot of the salvage that was on that for years and years and years was as the mines closed. A lot of it was dragged over as scrap metal, but never got to the foundry, just stayed on the property. Okay. Counselor Mino and Counselor Morgan after.
I'll speak as Councilor Morgan. No, actually, you mentioned in your report that the previous director of physical services made an arrangement with this gentleman, right?
Well, I'm assuming that's what it was. I can't find a
Yeah.
council direction, so I'm assuming that's what it
But the
was.
previous director of physical services, I think, left employment here in March, I believe. So I would agree with Mr. Chamayard that the timeline should be very strict, because in March, there was already an agreement in place. We went through the whole summer.
Oh, I
and-
believe it started a long time before that.
Yeah, and so we have history here of not getting it done, and we had also a history of having a 50% fee. So why would we go to the 100% now if this person has not cleaned up as per promised?
So
So-
the comment regarding the 50%, that's something that council delegated to the director. I'm not sure when, but it was regarding demolition projects. So there was something that was an eyesore. The director of physical services had the ability to waive 50% himself. But in this circumstance, there was a waiver of 100. So that's something that's been going on. I'm sure it supersedes Tony. It was something that Mayor Inouye, I believe, put in
Yeah.
place.
And we still have the same situation. So
Yes, you're right.
I'm just talking about the timeline here,
Yep.
obviously. So,
Counselor Morgan.
Good one. In all fairness to Mr. Seibert Jr., I think a lot of us are still stuck with the stigma from the previous generations of yards there. And in reality, this is significantly less unsightly than what was there in the past. And I guess my question is, what about the other eyesores that are around coming into town? I'd like to see something done with some of those. There's at least one other one that's egregious compared to this one. And we need to do something about that as well. So I just want to throw that out there. Because, I mean, this property actually is pretty neat and tidy now. Certainly compared to what it was in the past, And compared to the other offender, at least one other offender on the other, further out of town, so.
Tony, just one more.
Counselor Shamiard.
And I don't even know if Norman, Todd, and Tony were involved. This has been going on for probably 20 years, because I remember at council spending hours and hours talking about that property. And then when Jesse bought it, it was so much better right away, like Todd said, 100 times better. But still, there's still, if he wants to clean it, after that, actually, can we change the, like, it's called a salvage yard, can we change the designation to this?
No, so because he's operated the salvage yard before the zoning bylaw was passed in 1977, it's been operating forever. He's allowed to continue the operation of that salvage yard until there's 2 years where it's not being used as a salvage yard.
Okay,
So
but,
he
but,
continues
but if
to
somebody comes in and say, I'm gonna do this there.
Yep.
Would you, then would you
Then
change
you'd
it?
lose the salvage yard, yeah.
Okay,
So if
that's,
he's
yeah, it'd be
doing-
nice to get rid of that.
It's all a matter of how they end up using their
Okay.
property. We can't control it.
Okay.
Try, but.
Any other questions, comments? Peter?
Just a recommendation to consider, if we put a budget cap on this and a time cap. And we could say $1,000, and by June 30th, or pick a date, like whatever seems reasonable, then the offer expires, sort of thing, to the property owner.
Yeah, to drive by there now, it sure looks a lot different, doesn't it? You know, it's a lot cleaner, a lot more presentable coming into town. So. Joanne just writing up.
That's fine.
Okay, so it's moved by Counselor Morgan, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that council approves the request from Jesse Siebert to waive 100% of landfill tipping fees for a limit of $1,000 and for a time period up to June 30th, 2018, for cleanup at the Beaver Hill Salvage Yard, as per the recommendations presented by the town planner.
All in favor? All in favor, sorry. Okay. Item B, we've already covered that, and you'll go on to number C now?
Yep. So my third request to council tonight is we're not going to, I don't have the bylaw being proposed at the end of this meeting. I was going to give us some time to process it and consider it at the next meeting. But it's the request to amend the traffic and parking bylaw. And what I'm asking for is the elimination of the city taxi cab stands, which is on Wood Street. So there's a cab stand there. So it's taking up one parking space, and they're no longer operable. So it's reverting that back to a regular parking space. And the addition to list a list of items capable of being towed. So we've run into a few issues with winter parking trailers that are parked on boulevards. And there's, our bylaw enforcement officer could technically tow, but it's not extremely clear in the bylaw. What I'm planning on doing is listing trailers directly into what's allowed to be towed and other objects to make it extremely clear and capable of being held up in court. So it just protects it a little bit better, or protects our bylaw enforcement officer a bit better.
Councillor Shamiard.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
I thought we had a bylaw about trailers, they had to be in the backyard or something, like 3-4 years ago.
There's, so in our parking bylaw, we have a regulation that allows for construction trailers to be parked in the front of residences that are doing any type of building activity. If you want to do that, you need to come see us in our department for a permit to allow that to take place, and it's time sensitive. On properties, that's in the zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we've dealt with
I'm pretty sure we
stored
did. And that was like 2 weeks, you were allowed to
Oh.
clean it and all this, you could park on the road.
That's on
even.
street.
Yeah, but there was
For
also a
recreational
yard.
trailers.
Don't remember?
Yeah, but
No, that was, it might have
I've-
been before you, it might have been the last one.
It was last council, and
Yeah.
it was brought up as a zoning request, and on property, I don't think we ended up regulating it. I think
I'm
we
pretty sure-
proposed it. I can look into it for you
yeah.
and get back to you.
Oh, that's why I was just, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
just look into it.
Okay. But
Yeah.
this one strictly deals with on-street, so that it won't affect the enforcement on properties. private
Okay, so the
properties.
one on the street was also defined.
Sorry?
The one on the street was defined. You're allowed to park on the street for so many days.
Recreational trailers.
clean it and-
Recreational
yeah.
trailers. But trailers, I mean, the ones that you tow with, there's usually, like, if you're gonna try and bring a load to the dump and you have a trailer at the back. Yeah, utility trailers.
But I think that was all included, no?
Only if you have a construction, like if you have a permit
Yeah.
that's received from us.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's, I mean, the winter guidelines are in effect now too, right? So
Yeah.
you would be able to park probably, you'd be okay to park in the summer, but now that winter's in place and they're staying overnight, they're causing problems with winter maintenance, so.
But we still continue to work with the residents.
Oh, yes.
Because a lot of people have a lot of toys and not a lot of property, but we
We-
still continue to work with
Yeah,
them. and
Craig will, no
try
matter
to
what, he'll
come up with
provide
a
notice.
solution.
If he can figure out who the owner is, he'll provide a notice, and then he'll ticket if he doesn't hear from them. And he'll give them a time frame. I don't think he's towed any trailers at this point because he doesn't have the authority, but he's pretty good that way.
Okay.
It's moved by Counselor Kylie, seconded by Counselor Morgan. The council approves the amendments to the traffic and parking bylaw as presented by the town planner, and that the amending bylaw be brought to the December 5th meeting for consideration.
All in favor? It's carried.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, item 7 is the introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws.
None? There are none?
None? Okay, item 8, notices of motion.
Okay, I have received a notice of motion from Counselor Kylie, and it's moved by Counselor Kylie, seconded by Counselor Barker. Take notice that I am filing a notice of motion requesting that the resolution of November 7th, 2017, to relocate council chambers on a temporary basis be presented at the council meeting of December 5th, 2017, on the following basis. Number 1, the town of Kirkland Lake is non-compliant to the Ontario Accessibilities Act at its present town hall location and is subject to liability and charges under the act. Number 2, feedback from local residents that have requested reconsideration. And number 3, the Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association has requested this resolution be brought back to council for consideration. Before, I know Councillor Carly would like to speak to this. I just wanted to mention that when it comes to reconsideration of a matter that has been brought to council, you cannot bring it back within a 6-month period of time unless there's extra information that comes forward or unless council, 5 members of council, 2/3 of council votes to have it brought forward for reconsideration.
Councillor
Yeah,
Kylie.
I brought this back because I think we have a responsibility and a legal obligation to fulfill the legislation, Ontario legislation for accessibilities. We've fallen behind. All of our buildings that the town owns, except for Heritage North and now the new Civic, because the proper, met the proper requirements for accessibilities. To try and get in to our building here, especially in the winter, it's extremely difficult. When we came in tonight, both Tom and I tried the button for the access electronic doors. It's not working. I know Joanne has to go down and let one of the regular attendees from the media to let him in. And it's also very difficult if we look around in our whole building, the doors that we have are non-compliant as well. The door at the back, the entrance to the council chambers in itself, if you're in a wheelchair, it's extremely difficult if you don't have that upper body strength to even open that door. So we're in under no compliance situation for quite some time. We're not going to solve this problem overnight. We've been kicking the can down the road for several years on it, and we have to come up with a long-term plan. In the meantime, going to Heritage North, it's not going to cost us that much. It'll meet the requirements of legislation in Ontario. So I'd ask for your consideration tonight to bring this back to council and with a full council in session, for another vote.
Counselor Barker.
Just to add to that too, to have the council proceedings put on YouTube, it wouldn't take much. Heritage North should have a high definition camcorder, digital camcorder already, purchased. They have one. They had it for years. So if we can videotape and using the cordless mic that they have in the facility, should be plenty enough to get the volume, so we can still put the council chambers up on YouTube and have the proceedings shared. But we do need to be in compliance. People that would like to attend that have disabilities, accessibility issues are being prevented from being able to attend currently, and would like to rectify that. Just some food for thought.
Counselor Morgan.
Obviously, I wasn't at the meeting that, when all this dialogue came to the fore. So I'm a little in the dark as to what all the discussion was and what the issues were. So, I am in the dark. I'm certainly willing to, revisit it, but it's difficult for me to because I didn't know specifically that this was coming up tonight. So I wasn't able to avail myself of the previous meeting, so I don't know exactly what the dialogue was. Certainly, one of the issues for me would be the ability to continue with the YouTube. I think that's a very solid, I mean, as much as I was a skeptic at the beginning, it's become a very solid, record of what we do here. So that would be important for me. I'd also like to know what the budget things are. So I'm assuming that all that discussion was hashed out before. I'm not sure why it was defeated or not. So, I mean, I'm willing to revisit it only for my own edification, but I mean, I'm really challenged to go against my fellow councillors if you've already made a decision. So I just, it's a bit difficult for me.
Counselor Shamiard.
Yeah, I thought you said there had to be some new information. Like, when we voted last time, we wanted some more, oh, sorry, Joanne, I'm looking at you, but because you brought that motion back somehow, I don't know how you did this, because it was not in my page when I saw it. Sorry, Tony, I'm talking to you.
No, I'm listening.
Like, I would like to have numbers, and that's what we said last time. We'll stay here until we have a better, like, sorry, Pat, but you said, well, it wouldn't cost that much. Well, that's not a number. That's just would cost that much. Well, is it $5, or is it 10,000, or is it 100,000? I have to know, make a decision. And I don't think it's that hard to do, but I still have to know. Would we be better there? Sure, we'd be better there for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, maybe it's better to fix this building here better and get grants from government. I mean, we didn't look at that either, or maybe we did. I don't know what they did before. So there's a lot of work, not a lot of work, some work to be done before, I think. And like you said, Pat, which I agree, will be temporary until more research will be done. But I mean, for me, YouTube is also really important, but it's important that people could come to meetings. So it's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, just to help, I think this is driven by constituents, and I think the member is acting on behalf of his constituent pressure. I'm happy to look at numbers again, get a legal opinion, if that's what council wishes. I'm happy to look at that as well, to get something in writing from a legal opinion with regards to the compliance, and look at the numbers and come back, at a later date if that's a wish or desire.
I didn't watch the YouTube either. Otherwise, I would have got appraised of all the conversation you had, but I don't think anybody around this table disputes the fact that we should have accessibility. I mean, that's a given, and we should certainly push towards that. You said compliance. Like, the law is not passed at this point in time, so to use non-compliant is a strong accusation towards, the municipality, because we're not breaking any law yet. The law is going to be passed in 2020, I believe. That's what it says, right?
I guess to help clarify, if we have a resident or constituent that wishes to attend council as to part of the civic engagement, and they can't access the building, we are not in compliance.
So as of today?
As of today.
So what's
We will have to
what's
accommodate.
What's AODA direction?
That's the building code requirement for all our facilities by 2025. but that doesn't negate the fact that we have to accommodate. Someone comes today to sit in the gallery or to delegate counsel, we will be denying them basically their right to, to participate as a citizen if they can't, if we don't have that. So we will have to accommodate. On the administrative front, if someone comes to town hall that can't enter the building, you know, obviously our accommodation for a city municipal service, we might meet them on the street level. We could go out to that service. We could possibly even go to their home. Council chambers, we can't physically remove. We can't go outside to accommodate that, so it's a little bit more difficult, right? So I would be required to accommodate a request to come to council, though, and that's just under regular human rights legislation, not AODA legislation.
Okay, so you clarified that for me, that's good, because AODA is, it's out there, and I know that, like, for instance, at the DSAB, we put in an elevator in one of the senior citizen homes, and it cost like $400,000 for one, and in the whole district, there's gonna need about 6 of them. And I don't know where the money is, because, you know, you were asking for, or, you know, he was asking for figures, and I'm very curious as to how much are we non-compliant throughout the whole municipality, and a report is certainly forthcoming, I would hope.
The non-compliance on AODA
Well-
or on accommodation? So I can, again, we can accommodate requests, and we have to accommodate.
Right.
Upon a request. Having the, regarding our AODA and our building standards, that's part of that's, I think, part of the resolution that was passed in November the 7th to do a study for all our facilities, right? Again, this is a question about immediate accommodation.
So that,
not, yeah.
So that resolution, if we bring it back to defeat it, then the study doesn't take place. Because
I think it was 2 resolutions, I think it
Oh,
was.
sorry,
I
okay.
can't,
I'm not
yeah, yeah.
familiar with the proceeding, but, so, what is different with this new resolution? You're asking for a temporary move?
I'm looking for further discussion and input from the CAO as far as our legal stand on it. And also, I just want to reemphasize, this is a temporary situation. We're not abandoning town hall for council meetings, but it's temporary. Like Peter said, we have to do a study on all our buildings in the community. I don't know of any, other than the Heritage North and the Civic, of any of the buildings being within compliance by today's standards. And it's long overdue. That study or review is, I can see this thing going on for another year. And if it's gonna take that long, let's temporarily go to Heritage North and it can accommodate the accessibility requirements. So I view it as a temporary basis.
Okay. There's 2 things here. I know, and speaking with Joanne, she had told me that, I'm putting you on the spot, that has been a study done in this building before for accessibility, isn't it?
I believe all of our buildings have been looked at from an
Okay.
accessible point of view.
So that's on record, or that, we have a document already? And was there a cost? Do you remember?
For that study, no, that was done, there was, it's an old study, and it was done with staff and with members of the public. And that predates the OADA study, or the act.
Okay. So we started from scratch, really?
We would have to.
Okay. And the other thing is, there's no problem going to the Hockey Heritage. We did it a few years as a Christmas meeting. I remember we'd go there. We'd go there for the last meeting of December, and we invited the public to come there. And mind you, the attendance wasn't very good, but it's doable. Yeah. So I could see us, as long as the study, or as long as the costing of getting compliant is part of and parcel of this.
Yeah, just to clarify again, there's 2 issues, right? The compliance is on the AODA, which is by 2025. However, human rights legislation is in fact today. If someone comes in today and asks today and cannot attend a council meeting or cannot physically delegate counsel, that is in violation of human rights legislation today. I will be forced, you know, as we all are, will be forced to accommodate, and as the chief administrator, I will make sure that that individual has their democratic voice heard, and whether that costs me whatever it costs, I will make sure that individual comes into this council chamber. And so that's one of the things that, you know, when they decided, and I thought that was pretty clear. We talked about the accommodation, that I will accommodate. So if I do get that request, whatever it is, and the dollar value is not a consideration when it comes to human rights legislation. So.
Councillor Morgan.
We're only talking about reopening the discussion here tonight, not actually having the discussion. So I'm hearing that by the next meeting, whenever it is, we're gonna have some numbers attached to what it's gonna cost us to move council temporarily so that's something new, apparently, that was not at the last meeting. And we're also gonna get a legal opinion, right, which was not at the last meeting. So we are in fact introducing new information to this discussion. Am I correct in my assessment?
Yeah, there were
here?
numbers attached to the moving. I think in the staff report, it was $15,000.
Yeah, that was not.
That was just an
Okay.
I think it was just an estimate.
So, okay. But then we can supply new numbers.
Okay, so I'm getting a comfort level of voting in favor of reopening the discussion, because I'm sensing that there is some new information, that I'm not trampling on my fellow councilors' decision from the last meeting. So that's kind of where I am right now. And as well, you mentioned some clarification on the AODA, and I'm not sure that that was necessarily part of the last dialogue. So I'm okay with reopening this.
Oh, Councillor Shamian.
Peter, can you also check, like, there has to be something, like, and I'm not agree, I don't say I disagree to move there, but there must be something about being compliant when it's an older building. There must be some accommodate. What does that mean, accommodate? Make sure you open the door downstairs, help them go in the elevator and walk here? So there's no cost to that, really.
Whatever.
There's no cost to that, yeah.
Could be. There could be no cost, or there could be.
Yeah.
Now that's assuming. Now you're assuming the individual calls us in advance.
Yeah, I know.
But, you know,
And I'm not saying
yeah.
that's a good thing to do,
Right.
but I'm just saying,
So.
because we're blaming right now other people before that we were not compliant, but maybe we were compliant, because I'm sure the government doesn't pass a rule and say, okay, starting today, that's how it's gonna be. They warn you 10 years ahead of time, and there's something coming up. They don't go around and give tickets to people because they're not compliant, because the rules were always followed. And I'm sure Norm and Todd were here for 20 years, and they always follow the rules and make sure everything is done right.
Or no complaints have
And no complaints that there come, yeah.
that's how, yeah.
But they also put an elevator, they also make sure some stuff was done. And the rules, I mean, the rules change years to years, and you have to accommodate. You have to accommodate, I don't know if the rule. Get used to the new one and make some changes. But I'm sure also older building, they must have different things. So I don't think we were against the law. What, do you want me to move there? Like if Pat says temporary, that's what we should try to do before we look at numbers. I like to have numbers. I don't like to make decisions with no numbers. So the numbers I want. If we move there, how much, we have to set up a YouTube with the same thing we have here. That's important for me. So give me numbers on that. What do we need to get this building up to par? And also if there's any grants the government has, and there probably is, and I'm not saying we'll get them, but at least we could look at them. And I'm sure there are probably grants, either federal or provincial.
You want, so for.
Just look if there's some.
I can provide you numbers of what it'll take to install YouTube at Heritage
Yeah.
North, and I can get you a legal opinion, but you wanted for the next meeting, but you wanted a cost of how much this building to come.
Like what do we need there? Like doors opening, wider?
Yeah, you need a,
We're only talking about temporary,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, so what you're talking about is a permanent solution. We're talking about
Yeah.
a temporary relocation to Heritage North, not whether we're gonna ditch this building. That's a whole other discussion, yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm glad to ditch this building, okay, but that's a bigger discussion.
Joanne just wanted to,
I just want you to know the notice of motion can be presented at any point during the meeting. Counselor Kylie did give this to me ahead of the meeting. I read it to you. He's asking to have this reconsidered on December 5th. But a notice of motion, he could bring this to you right now as a notice of motion that at the next meeting, I'm going to ask you to reconsider. So what Counselor Carly is asking for you to vote to reconsider at the next meeting, but you do not have to. He is just providing you notice that at the next meeting, he's going to bring this forward to you. So it's up to you as council if you want to vote on this today, but it's definitely not part of your procedures, and it can hold off until next meeting, so that you vote on this next meeting, and then it comes back at some future time. But Counselor Kylie had asked for it to be reconsidered at the next meeting. Yes. So, that's all. But in order to have it come back for you to reconsider it, 5 of you do need to vote that yes, we can bring it back to council. And you don't have to do that tonight. That vote can be taken on December 5th. So right now, it's just, you've been served notice. At the next meeting, this is going to come up. So it's totally up to you whether you want to vote on it now or not. Or you can defer it. But he has asked for you to vote on it tonight, to bring it back.
But why would we keep pushing it down the road? I mean, I'm confused now.
I thought my intent was to get the okay from council to have a full discussion and vote on a new resolution on December 5th. So the vote tonight is basically just to go ahead to put it on the agenda. It doesn't mean it's being passed in any way. It's coming up for discussion again.
Councilor Mino.
I think you gotta break it down. You have to have the 5 vote to go ahead and reconsider your motion, and then you have to rewrite a motion that would actually express what you're trying to get across to this table. And then we could have a direction to staff, where Jean-Guy was, and have a direction to staff to proceed with that tonight. This way, we kind of rush this thing. My other question was, your wish to have the council meeting at the Hockey Heritage is like next meeting?
No, oh, no, it's just to bring it back for discussion
Yeah.
on December 5th.
So your motion would have a start date or some kind of precision?
Well, when we decide if we're gonna go ahead with it, yeah, I'll come up with a date.
So you'll need his report first before you actually come up with a date?
We need to hear additional information like Jean-Guy is asking for and what Peter has mentioned as well.
So we should just give him a direction to staff to proceed with the fact-finding report?
Yeah, whether they can have it ready for the next meeting, if they can, that's fine.
Well, he said he would.
Just see what it's gonna cost for the, you two. And-
Whether we vote tonight for the.
We can. Yeah, I'm comfortable with voting tonight. Do we have, was there any more discussion before we? Nope. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
So do we have a resolution?
I do, I read it.
So you're gonna,
So it's moved by Counselor Kylie, seconded by Counselor Barker, from Counselor Kylie, take notice that I am filing a notice of motion requesting that the resolution of November 7th, 2017, to relocate council chambers on a temporary basis be represented at the council meeting of December 5th, 2017 on the following basis. 1, the TKL is non-compliant to the Ontario Accessibilities Act at its present town hall location and is subject to liability and charges under the Act. 2, feedback from local residents that have requested reconsideration. And 3, the Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association have requested this resolution be brought back to council for reconsideration.
Again, number one, we're not, we are okay right now. Because we accommodate people. So number one should not be there, really.
Yeah, I think it's the wrong act.
Yeah,
He mentioned the AODA, it should be human rights.
yeah.
It's a different.
But even that, Pat, even that, Peter, we have accommodate people to come in. So we didn't, really. Oh, I know.
Just, Scott, just before we don't want to get into,
Yeah.
okay, please do it through the chair.
Yeah, I think just, if we strike, perhaps we strike the act out, that, you know, yeah, and then just vote to reconsider if you want to bring this back on the agenda. Simplify it, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'll take out all of your rationale, and we're just asking council to please reconsider the resolution to relocate council chambers on a temporary basis, and that'll come back on the December 5th, 2017 agenda.
All in favor?
Sorry, hands again.
Okay, confirmation bylaw.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-120, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held November 21st, 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Thank you. Councilors' reports. Councilor Barker.
Well, with the snow comes a lot of issues, and one of the issues is plowing on and putting snow on sidewalks. I know I've got a few complaints now from pedestrians that have to go onto the roadway to access a crosswalk or to access other parts of the sidewalk with people plowing snow. So just a reminder to try to keep that in mind, that pedestrian safety when having your areas plowed, whether it be private or commercial or industrial spaces. Thank you.
So we have the adjournment bylaw.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council adjourns its regular meeting of November 21st, 2017, to an in-camera meeting to discuss one labor relation issue, one issue concerning the security of the property of the municipality, and 4 issues concerning litigation or potential litigations.
All in favor? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.